Hey there, you're tuning in to LowKey by Oaky, our easygoing sessions for hotel professionals where we chat about industry trends, issues, and solutions.
All right, good morning, good afternoon to everybody, and thank you for joining me. My name is Clement. I'm the host today for the LowKey by Oaky episode, and today we're going to speak about creating a happier workplace with upselling and upselling culture. And I'm humbled, really happy to be joined by Michiel Bogaert from ft.Pillows Hotels. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, Clement. Nice to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a packed agenda for today and really excited about speaking about the impact that upsell can have, not just on revenue, but also on the culture that you have in teams and in general on the theme of talent. Maybe you can start with introducing yourself to our listeners.
Well, I'm Michiel. I work for ft.Pillows Hotels as a revenue and distribution manager. I think that since almost 1 year, we have started working with Oaky as an upselling tool. We first started with the front desk upsell, which was pretty new back then. And we quickly changed also to the pre-arrival at the front desk. And I think everything is going well right now. So
amazing. Well, thank you for joining us also in our headquarters in the office in Amsterdam.
Thank you for the invite.
Absolutely. Always happy to have a conversation like this. So we decided to talk about upselling culture today. And I thought it was a really great theme to invite you for it because I remember from our conversations, you always said that you're not just a revenue manager, but you're also there to kind of coach revenue culture in the rest of the team. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about this.
That is correct. Together with my colleague Pascal in the Netherlands, we are trying to actually involve the whole team, not only commercial team, but also the operational team in the at least revenue culture. So we try to make everybody aware what the goal is for in terms of budgeting and also looking for upselling opportunities, for example, that definitely can happen in the operational teams. So that is actually the reason why we also through training try to get everybody involved in making as much revenue as we can, because in the end that's I think always that's the easiest way to get a nice profit is to start with increasing the revenue.
Yeah, absolutely. And so speaking about culture, maybe we can dial back and can you tell us and try to define for our listeners what you would define as a good upselling culture?
I think as an upselling culture, for me, and I've also spoke about that in a couple of trainings as well, for me there's actually 3 things that need to happen, and it's win, win, win. So it's actually, I'm always talking about a triple win. The moment that we have our guests that are extra happy for receiving a nice upgrade, receiving an extra service, that's the first win. The second win is if we have a good team, if we have a happy team, like you are also stating it. The happy team it's important. If everybody is happy, then they are definitely on board. And the second one, of course, or the third one, of course, is the hotel. The hotel also needs to win. That is so. If you have that triple win, that's for me. That would define a very good upselling culture for me.
Amazing. So you start with a guest, then you make sure that the team is happy, and at the end, the hotel also benefits from it.
Not necessarily that order,
okay.
Because I think that it's also very important to have maybe the guest and the employees are maybe on the same level. Yeah,
and as a consequence, the
hotel benefits. Yes, indeed. Yeah,
win. Love that. Tell us a little bit more about what inspired you and your company to implement an upselling culture, an upselling program as well. And yeah, maybe you can take us through the stages of such implementation.
It actually happened quite a long time ago already. So before I started working as a revenue manager for ft.Pillows Hotels, I was a manager on duty at the Sheraton in Brussels. That hotel unfortunately no longer exists. But before the merge between Starwood and Marriott, Starwood came up with some kind of upselling tool, which was very beneficial also for the employee to upselling. you received some percentage of the upsell that you did, and that was added to your salary. So that was amazing. So the moment that I started working at Pillows, I always thought about implementing something like that. But it takes quite a lot of time. It takes a long effort as well. And the cooperation of the whole of multiple departments, which makes it pretty difficult to track it. And then also definitely in that way of paying out it through the salary, you also need HR to be involved in that part. So every time I tried, I actually failed a little bit, trying to do it with Excel sheets, trying to make them follow it up. And it was actually last year, just before we started with Oaky, that Masha, our COO, she decided to say, like, okay, you know what, guys, let's focus again on trying to get some extra revenue, trying to focus on commercial teams, and maybe Michiel, you can try and restart the whole thought process about the upselling again. In which I said, like, okay, it's nice that you offer it, but maybe it's better to have somebody else do it, because I'm stuck maybe in a little bit of a tunnel vision. But in the end, we prevailed, and I took the task upon myself, and we started with, again, the Excel sheets, which were very difficult to keep track of. It was very difficult for the front office team as well to put them in. We also had some kind of incentive program in which the GSAs, the guest service agents, were actually, they received a benefit at the end, but it was the first one got a voucher from like 150 euros, the second one got a voucher of 100 euros, and then the third one of 50 euros. But you make it very competitive, so you do not involve the whole team in that stage. So we already had not such a good feeling about that. Because in the end, you'll always have the same three people winning. It's those that are the most comfortable with having with doing the sales, doing the upsell, the actual upsell itself. So, and then all of a sudden, I was scrolling through LinkedIn, and then I saw the FDU from Oaky, and I said, like, this is what we need. We need to get this implemented, and that will definitely gain us quite a lot of revenue. And so we did, and there we are right now where we are now. We are very happy. We are still very much in a learning curve as well. Definitely, like, what services do we add? How many services do we have? We cannot make it too overwhelming as well, neither for the guest nor for the employee. But we're pretty happy at this moment.
And so if I summarize, so you took on that project, you decided, hey, let's start it once more, did it in with the tools that you had, which was Excel, and still create some sort of incentive. Moving forward, implemented Oaky as a tech that does the technical heavy lifting, if to say that. What changes did you see appear in the team, in the mindset, in the motivation that they had following that?
Well, as I said, first of all, the competitiveness got lost because everybody won. So it was not the first one, it was not the second one. We didn't talk about that. It was like, if you're very good at upselling, then you're going to benefit from it. Much more than somebody who is not as good, but through training, we would be able to make them as good as everyone. I mean, everyone is same. So that was an important step. And to get more involvement from the team. Yeah. And I think as well, the ease of it fits right into the process of check-in, you know. When you go through our PMS system, you can just, from a very easy part, you can just add the upsell into Oaky, and then it automatically goes to the PMS system. So it's all integrated, so it makes it much more easier to do the upsell in the end. Whereas with the Excel, you would need to copy the reservation number. In that Excel, you need to say, what did you upsell? How much did you upsell for? And then somebody needs to track this, and then so that demotivates very quickly. So in this way, the process and the fact that everybody was winning helped a lot, definitely. So
to keep the motivation up, you wanted to make sure that there was as little friction as possible, right? As much smoothness in the process itself. And you mentioned a change of incentive as well. Can you tell us a bit more about what kind of incentive program did you choose?
Yeah, it's I think we immediately, or at least I started with thinking back at when I was working at Sheraton.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that the idea of receiving a percentage of the upsell was the most, or it was the best way to incentivize our staff members. For me, when I was working at reception, that felt really good. So I thought if I can implement something like this, that would be really nice. Maybe not necessarily as a bonus to the salary, but maybe more in terms of experiences. So what we did was we actually per upsell that guest service agent would do, he would receive, or they are receiving points.
Yeah.
And those points they can actually, through a very easy system, they can return then for experiences.
And not just experiences, right? It wouldn't be a Pillows Hotels, it wouldn't be a Michiel project if it wasn't somehow exceptional, right? So tell us more about that.
Yeah, well, I think it comes down to a little bit also what I think Thomas Finn said here in a podcast in the past. I could come up with some ideas, of course, that's nice. But in the end, it's the people that are doing the upsells, that are winning the points, they should come up with some ideas as well. And so at a certain point, I said, like, guys, think of a very nice experience that you want to do and tell me, and then we'll add it to the points system.
Let's be creative together.
Indeed. And then all of a sudden, we came with a skydiving trip as well. Somebody normally is going to do this summer when the weather is a little bit better.
Wait. So someone is actually going to jump off a plane as a reward from being a great upseller.
Yes, indeed. That's what we are thinking.
I love this. This is amazing.
Yeah, that's what we also hope. It's also a nice way to really say, like, okay, when you come and work for Pillows Hotels, you get to jump out of an airplane, just skydive.
If you want to, right?
If you want to, yeah. Yes, if you choose to. There are also massages. There's a lot of endless people who love to go for dinner with their family. Even if you want to spend the night in the Pillows Hotels, you get some discounts on that as well. So it's really a lot of benefits that the guest service agents chose themselves. For them, it should be an experience, and it should be something which is fun as well. So that's really important.
And that's amazing how we now turn back to the triple win, right?
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden you turned this win, both from the guest perspective, but also from the hotel perspective, into an employer proposition, right? It's really about actually making your brand and your team stand out compared to, well, potentially other hotels around there, right? The marketplace is a tough one.
At this moment, it is, yes. Yeah. So it is important, yeah.
That's I think really inspiring. I'm curious if there's anything that you can learn from the current implementation. I think a lot of our listeners also see this kind of upselling program as potentially a big project. Can you maybe share some tips of things that you maybe would do differently, or that you definitely knew you did well?
I think it's definitely a big project. We might have underestimated it a little bit, but the returns are really good. So that's definitely a benefit. And I think what I would do different is, I think it depends very much on which hotel. Every hotel has a different way of working with an incentive program. Maybe some would rather pay it out by salary. Some would do it like the points, like we do. I think we're happy overall, but I think it's still a little bit of a search as well to what services we would add to that. To the whole upselling program.
Yeah.
Some services work very well, others don't. For some services you receive more revenue, others you don't. I think it basically comes to start, implement a system like this, start with it and
optimize it.
Yeah, optimize it. Yeah,
that's the way that you like
that's how it always goes. I think I remember a quote, I think it was from Joe Pettigrew as well in one of our meetings that we had, or at least the get-togethers we have seen. I think Joe also says if you stop trying or trying to learn, then you'll not move forward anymore. So so just start and try to learn. Yeah.
To quote Joe, be a maximizer, right? This is that was always the profile that he's looking for. Amazing. We heard a couple of great points on how to bring that upselling culture to directly the front office team, right? The guest service agents. Curious to hear if you're managing to also bring that upselling culture and the benefits of planning the stays to potentially other teams in the organization. One of the best sellers for you guys is breakfast. So curious if this also allowed to, I don't know, share that culture with the rest of the team.
Yeah, it's definitely something we want to achieve. We're not 100% there yet. I think involving the whole team is of course what the idea is. It's not easy to do that. Even with starting with the front office team, it's not easy to get everybody on board. It takes some time. It takes a lot of training as well, and then getting other departments involved as well. And that's all, of course, something that we will also look into the future. At this moment, it's only the front office team that benefits really from upselling. In the future, we would like to have like our food and beverage department as well, being a part of it.
Yeah.
But definitely, like you say, the breakfasts, upselling the breakfasts, for example, it helps a lot in terms of operational wise as well.
Can you elaborate a bit more for our listeners?
For example, it's when we work in a way that upselling in advance, you would benefit from as a guest because you get a breakfast at which is a little bit lower in rate. So it's really like a question like you would ask in McDonald's. I mean, you don't have breakfast included in your rate. Would you like to have breakfast? If you decide now, it's only this amount. Normally, if you decide tomorrow, it will be that amount. So you'll get a better view of how many people will come to breakfast, and that would help definitely also a breakfast chef, for example. In the morning,
so down to the chef, actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you know how many croissants you have to put in the oven, then that will benefit you in the end. It always sounds very small. One croissant will save you not a lot of money, but if you count them all together, and that it always comes down to that, if you can save on waste, for example, as well, definitely in F&B, then that's also an important part. Definitely. Also with rostering staff, it's very important to do pre-arrival upsells. If you know how many people are coming to breakfast, then that's super important. You can staff better. You can get your food cost under control.
And so here you're basically turning upselling into a culture of anticipation in a way, right? That way you're able to know a bit better, to forecast a bit better how much activity, how much business you'll have in certain outlets or in specific areas of the hotel.
Definitely also saving in costs. So you get every extra benefit of the revenue, and then if you can save in costs as well, it's definitely for a buffet, which in most of the hotels the breakfast is a buffet.
Yeah.
It would be more interesting to have a better forecasting of how many people come to breakfast.
Amazing. From the culture of the team, jumping off of an airplane, and now we're back to forecasting breakfast. I wanted to touch on one topic because we can't talk about culture without talking about training, and you touched upon it really quickly. You opted and invested for training for your teams. Can you tell us more about where did that decision come from?
I'm a big believer of training people. I think it's very important. I think everybody should be trained very often on the jobs that they do, and at this moment, still it happens very little. Unfortunately, I believe that it would be good that everybody. So we actually did the training together with the Hayward Group. And so somebody came to the hotel and explained us how can we implement an upselling culture, and how can we make and all our guest service agents in Ghent, they also had a training from the Hayward Group on how do I do an upsell. Of course, you do that once, but that actually has to happen over time, multiple times a year maybe, and definitely every year, at least once a time every year. So in the Pillows Academy, which we have, we are now also implementing a course on really how do I do an upsell. It also depends on the company that you work for. The language that you have to use is also very important. Finding out for yourself how do I really make a very good upsell? How do I incorporate that? It may not at least it may not look like a transaction.
Yes,
It really
it has to feel genuine for the guest too.
It
right?
has to feel genuine. It has to feel like a conversation that you're having with your guest, and that you are proposing something that he really needs.
Yes.
So, and that's why training is so important. And I cannot stress this enough. You need to do this multiple times a year, maybe to get really well at it. So
this is amazing. It's almost like a full circle. You being here on the podcast and mentioning the Hayward Group and Pen Chai, who was actually here in the studio as well in one of the first ones, talking about upsell culture from more of a theoretical perspective. And well, thank you so much for bringing us your experience, your thoughts. Definitely, want to follow this journey along. I think we are moving to the next session. All right. And so this is the shameless plug. So you're able to actually talk about anything you want in a completely shameless way.
That's actually a good question. I haven't really thought about it.
Maybe from an employer positioning perspective, is there any job openings that you have at Pillows Hotels if you want to come and jump from a plane or go to Tomorrowland? Or
I think it's. I mean, we have recently opened a hotel in Amsterdam here, and so from what I heard from the colleagues, we are. So it's Pillows Maurits at the Park. So what I heard from colleagues there is that we are always looking for definitely interesting people who are willing to work in a luxurious environment, and just check it out. Check our job page online, and maybe you'll find a nice job opening there. Also in Amsterdam, we're using Oaky, so we have the points system there in place. So go ahead, and maybe you'll be the next one to jump out of the airplane.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Michiel. If our listeners want to follow you and start to continue the conversation with you, where can they find you?
On LinkedIn. I'm available on LinkedIn, definitely. You'll find there Michiel Bogaert, Bogaert.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I think to finish, to close off this session, we received a question from Clement Denarie, our previous guest from Accor, and he was very, very curious to hear someone else's opinion on this. The question was the following: we have fantastic tools and softwares. However, how are we actually breaking the silos between the commercial teams through the tools? How do we bring together teams that normally only work together but are using separate tools?
Yes.
2 cents on this?
Yeah, well, it was really funny when I heard the question. I knew that was coming to me. So, and a couple of weeks before that, I actually asked the same question during a team session. I said, okay, I think we still work a little bit too much in silos. How could we break this? So I thought oh my God, I need to answer this question. I really need to think about something.
So you actually had that question
I actually
raised
had
by
it.
yourself?
Yes, yeah. Just
before that even?
Before I heard the podcast. So when I heard it, so thank you, Clement. I really have thought about it quite a lot in the past couple of days. And I think for me, it comes down to I think 4 things. Technology, that's a start. I mean, just like Clement also said, I mean, it starts with the technology, but that is something that we have very little influence on. So we rely on partners like you guys to do that. And then you have the people. I think you also have the goal and the in the end, the third one that's quite important is the. I thought about it and now I didn't write it down. So.
So technology, it would be people.
Well, definitely for the people. Maybe it gets to me a little bit later. For the people, I mean, you have in the commercial team, you have the sales, you have the revenue, and you have the reservations team. And it would be interesting if we all knew a little bit more about each other's job. I think, if the salesperson knows what the revenue guy is doing, and the revenue guy knows what the reservations person is doing. Is that then that's one of the most important things to break those silos. Because if you come in and you think that your job is only opening emails and replying to emails, then it's not going to work. And that actually just relates a little bit to the second idea, is that the goal should be known by everybody. I mean, we've talked about it in the past. you have talked about it during podcasts as well, is that the goal can be RevPAR, can be TrevPAR, can be GoPAR. Any goal, everybody should have the same goal. That's just the most important thing. Yeah. Because if you say like, okay, for the sales team, the occupancy is a goal, but for the revenue guy, the GoPAR is the goal, then somewhere you're gonna have friction. They are going to work towards their goal, and I'm going towards my goal, but it doesn't match up. So that's very important. And then the third one, of course, which I just mentioned, is just training. Yeah. I mean, and then it helps definitely if I'm not a reservations person or I'm not a salesperson. So it might be interesting for me, like I did a couple of months ago as well. I attended a training on sales. So just to better understand what my colleagues are doing as well, how they do their jobs. Yeah. So I think that's really important. We haven't implemented it yet as well. We also still struggle with those silos, and it sounds very easy to implement those things, but it's not. Definitely. I mean, when I heard Clement talk about this, I thought like, okay, somebody at Accor would definitely know how to answer that question. But like as you see, it's
a tough one.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
And I imagine that this is also what makes it nice, because bringing teams together, creating understanding from one to another when you work together so much, that's also what makes that part challenging, and probably where you achieve a lot more when you actually get to that understanding and breaking the silos.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, Michiel. Maybe very, very last thing. What is a question you want the next guest to answer?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think and a good question would be how... let me think about it for a second. I would say we struggle a little bit with, at least that's what I also talked to you about, Clement, is that I found it difficult that once you implement a system like an Oaky into multiple hotels, how do you, or is there a way to get the motivation that I have to really put that over on the team and to keep it as alive as possible with those teams over there at the operations? Because I sometimes have a feeling that once I've implemented a system like this, it's a little bit I drop it off at the operations team, but then it's out of my hands and I cannot control it that much more anymore.
And you want it to live on its own.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So that would be a question that I have. How do you do that?
Amazing. All right. Not an easy one either. Thank you so much, Michiel, for this amazing conversation. This was LowKey by Oaky. See you later.
Thank you.